Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you being here. Let me jump right into it because it's the beginning of summer, and wildfire season in California keeps just growing. It's almost a year-round concern these days. Just last year, in 2021, California experienced more than 8,000 fire incidents with more than 2.5 million acres burned and more than 3,500 structures either damaged or completely destroyed. The largest fire, the Dixie Fire, burned almost 1 million acres and is the largest single fire now in California history. With more than 4.6 million properties in California, or about 40% of the state, having at least moderate risk of burning in the next 30 years. This is according to the First Street Foundation. California is experiencing more frequent and more severe fire seasons year after year. The situation is dire, and it demands expanded and sustained federal support. So the first area of questioning is this. The one issue that I keep hearing time and again when I'm out and about in California, particularly for communities that are recovering and rebounding from recent fires, is the delays in FEMA dollars getting out the door and into the communities that have been on the front lines of these disasters, particularly regarding mitigation grants. These delays, I think, are unacceptable. You probably agree. I hope you would agree, and don't really reflect the realities of those on the ground that are trying to mitigate prior to an event, recover after an event. So my question is this: what steps would you suggest that we take for FEMA to reach a decision on grant applications on a more timely basis and keep the money moving? And if there's anything that this committee can do to assist in that regard, welcome your ideas.
Yes, Senator Padilla, we have a couple of different programs that can support the mitigation efforts, especially to mitigate against this increased wildfire threat that we're seeing. We did just talk about the BRIC program, and that's pre-disaster mitigation program, and that notice of funding opportunity does come out every year. And we also have post-disaster hazard mitigation grant funding that comes out after a presidentially declared disaster. And we recently, over the last few years, included hazard mitigation money for our FMAGs, our Fire Management Assistant Grant. So we have several different programs that are eligible for communities to use. What I would say is that, one, we actually don't see a lot of grant applications for wildfire mitigation, and what I could really use help with Congress on is helping communities understand that these are eligible programs that can be used for wildfire mitigation. I would love to see more applications come in to support those resilience building efforts.
Right.
But I will continue to work with my team on getting funding out the door. Again, our BRIC program, we've just getting ready to announce our second year of awards. It's a new program for us and more money than we've ever been able to give before. We want to work with communities to make sure that they are in a position to execute at the same time. And so we will continue to work on getting that funding out sooner.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that. Looks like we have some follow-up already on getting the word out on grant availability. So careful what you ask for, because you're going to get it. Let me also turn to a different incident from last year, the Caldor Fire, which burned more than 220,000 acres and destroyed over 1,000 structures, including the entire town of Grizzly Flats, California. Now, in Grizzly Flats alone, 594 homes and essential community resources such as the only elementary school, the grocery store, the fire station, the medical clinic, the post office, all destroyed. Now, President Biden came out to California to personally tour the devastation, and the newspapers didn't skip a beat. They quoted his address to the community, including, quote, "There's so much we can do. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart." So that left a lot of people feeling good about his personal commitment to assist. Yet despite that commitment, the administration turned around and repeatedly, not just once, but repeatedly denied California's request for individual assistance for the devastated residents of Grizzly Flats. My specific question is in regards to the process. Now, I understand that FEMA's role is to provide a recommendation to the president regarding granting individual assistance. Is the president under any legal obligation or restriction to only heed that recommendation, or is the president allowed to differ from that recommendation if he concludes differently?
FEMA does provide a recommendation to the president for what we think should be the decision on any of these different disaster requests that come in. The president would have the ability to make a decision if he doesn't feel that it would be appropriate, but we provide our justification and our rationale to the president on why we would recommend he not approve that declaration.
But it is not a binding
I
recommendation?
don't believe so.
Okay. In my limited time left, I just want to turn to another California-specific concern, and that's this concept of state capacity. You've heard of the recent rule change. When it comes to assistance determinations, I know Congress directed FEMA to evaluate the factors with which to recommend individual assistance in the Sandy Recovery Improvement Act of 2013. Now, Congress did not specify what factors should be included in that review or determination. The new rule, finalized in 2019, established a new factor called the state fiscal capacity and resource availability to be considered when evaluating the need for individual assistance. Now, according to my colleagues in state government in California, this new state capacity criteria has resulted in significant disparities and inequities in granting individual assistance, and has left survivors, including those in Grizzly Flats, but there's many others, without the support that we believe they need. In the interest of time, I'll just ask this: will you commit to working with the committee and my office to ensure FEMA's process for recommendations is in fact more equitable and fair for all survivors, regardless of what state they live in?
Senator Padilla, I absolutely commit to working with you. After I came into this position, I have worked with my team that came in with me to look at the factors that we use for individual assistance. They are reviewing them now and making sure that we're using all of the authorities and the ability to use the Disaster Reform and Recovery Act as it was intended to be used. And so I'd be happy to continue to work with the committee and provide updates on our progress.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to our follow-up.